Is this NASCAR's scariest moment ever?
3 to go. The bumper to the back of the 24. Elliott goes around Hamlin.
NASCAR is one of the more contentious sports. Some people simply don't get it. Isn't it just a bunch of cars driving in circles around a track? What's the big deal about that? On the other end of the spectrum, some people treat the sport as a religion. It's a physical grind that requires coordination, guts, and insane endurance. That is far from straightforward. Hello, friend, welcome back to NASCAR Zone. Today, we share with you some of the most scariest moments of NASCAR that occur in racing history. But before that, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you will be updated about future videos. Let's get started.
And they're scattering everywhere as they come to the line.
Some of these guys hit hard, man.
And one of them was Kyle Busch.
The truth is that whether you don't care about a checkered flag or you watch as many races as possible, both sides should be able to agree that NASCAR is an extremely dangerous sport. Every time a racer gets into a car, they are essentially risking their life. Every race includes adrenaline, high speeds, and risk. Unfortunately, even the most skilled drivers can be overcome by the need for speed and the insatiable desire to win. When this occurs, a major collision is not ruled out. This sport has seen its share of disasters. Nonetheless, some of these accidents have stood out as a reminder of how dangerous getting into one of these cars can be. The first scariest moment is of 2000 Daytona. The worst crash in NASCAR history occurred during the 2000 Daytona 250. The Truck Series raced at Daytona for the first time. Kurt Busch, Rob Morgan, and Lyndon Amick had a three-wide battle on lap 57. Busch made contact with Morgan, who declined to speak with Amick. Both trucks returned up the track to Jeff Bodine. Bodine's truck slid off the road and into the fence. The fuel cell disintegrated, resulting in a large ball of flames. As it flipped down the front stretch, the truck disintegrated.
The trial down towards turn number 1, upside down, flames shooting from the machine as it's hit by another machine as a nasty crash in traffic in the trioval has put us under caution.
Bodine was hit by two trucks before coming to a stop. Everyone on the scene was terrified as the truck came to rest on its roof. It took about 15 to 20 minutes for fans to learn the exciting news. Bodine was conscious and conversing with medical personnel. Bodine survived the crash, but he was not unharmed. He had a broken jaw, a wrist injury, a shoulder injury, and a concussion. That season, he missed 10 races, but returned less than 3 months later. Isn't it incredible that he survived the crash, right? Next is the 2020 Daytona 500. With all of the safety precautions in place, there aren't many terrifying crashes in this era. The lone exception is Ryan Newman's crash in the 2020 Daytona 500. On the final lap of the Daytona 500, Newman held the lead. He stopped Ryan Blaney's run to the finish line. Blaney, however, caught him in the right rear, sending Newman into the outside wall head-on.
Blaney now due. Here comes a push from Denny Hamlin. Oh, this thing's not over yet.
The collision turned Newman's car upside down. The worst of the crash happened just moments later. Corey LaJoie arrived and slammed into Newman's car's drive side at speeds in excess of 180 miles per hour. Newman's car slid down the front stretch on its roof and came to a stop near the pit road's end. It took almost 20 minutes to get Newman out of the car. He lost consciousness but survived without serious injuries. He was out of commission for 3 months due to a bruised brain.
A fist pump from Denny Hamlin, who has won the Daytona 500.
Given the severity of the accident, his ability to return to racing was miraculous. Guard. Before we continue with this series of crashes, please subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss a new NASCAR video. Third on our list is of 1993 Talladega. Rusty Wallace was a top racer in the late 1980s and early 1990s. He won the championship in 1989 and was off to a great start in 1993. Wallace led 43 laps at Talladega, but would fall short. Coming to the checkered flag, Dale Earnhardt bumped into Wallace's rear bumper. Wallace was thrown into the air after making contact. He finished 6th, but that was unimportant in comparison to what happened next. When his car hit the ground, he flipped down the front stretch. Wallace was almost in turn one by the time it was over. The car landed on its wheels, but it was in a state of disarray.
We do.
The visibility was so bad that you could see the roll cage. Fortunately, Wallace appeared on the radio and stated that he was fine. This wasn't the first time Wallace had a terrifying crash. In the 1993 Daytona 500, he did a wild flip. That's 2 crazy crashes in 3 months. The most bizarre aspect of the whole thing is that Wallace went on to have a fantastic season. He did not win the championship, but he had one of the best seasons that did not result in a championship. Fourth one is 1970 Darlington. Richard Petty had his own terrifying crash at Darlington less than 10 years after his father's. Petty's car swerved to the left as he exited turn 4. He slammed into the inside wall so hard that it cracked. Petty's car flipped several times before coming to rest on its roof as a result of the impact. The broadcast featured a terrifying video of Petty's body dangling out the window. Everyone assumed the red substance on the pavement was his blood. Fortunately, it was a red rag. Petty was taken to the infield care center by safety officials, who advised him to go to the nearest hospital. Following the crash, Petty's brother Morris spoke to reporters. He informed them that Petty was fine and talking. Many people were relieved because they thought Petty might not make it. In reality, he had only a dislocated shoulder. Following the crash, NASCAR mandated that all cars had a window net. They wouldn't have to worry about falling out of the car in the event of a collision. That will most likely save a few lives in the future. Fifth is the 1961 Daytona 500 qualifying race. Richard Petty's father is NASCAR legend Lee Petty. Richard Petty is one of the greatest drivers of all time, but Lee was no slouch either. Petty was competing in a qualifying race at Daytona with Johnny Beauchamp. Beauchamp collided with Petty in turn 3, sending both cars into the outside wall. Because there wasn't much of a fence back then, both cars went over the wall and outside the track. Petty was resting alongside a pole after both cars flipped multiple times. Petty survived the crash, but he was not unharmed. He had multiple fractures and a punctured lung, forcing him to spend 4 months in a Daytona hospital. Petty raced again, but his full-time driving career was over. The crash took its toll on him, but he miraculously survived. He couldn't get off the track because there was no catch fence. There wasn't even a wall. Petty thankfully survived and lived to tell the tale. 6 is 2008 Texas. It's unusual to see a crash in qualifying. Even if you do, it's usually not a bad thing. That was not the case in 2008 for Michael McDowell. He completed his first qualifying lap flawlessly. Disaster struck on the second lap. McDowell's car became loose entering turn 1. He attempted to save it, but overcorrected and collided with the outside wall at 180 miles per hour. The impact was so powerful that his car flipped upside down. Before rolling down the bank, his car flipped in turns 1 and 2. Fortunately, his car landed on its wheels. The announcers' voices were filled with fear. When the announcers said they could see McDowell moving around in the car, we all felt relieved. A few moments later, the safety officials assisted him in exiting the vehicle. NASCAR added a safer barrier to the walls at each track in the 2000s. Without it, we're talking about hitting a concrete wall at close to 200 miles per hour. That move most likely saved his life, if not his life. McDowell suffered minor injuries but did not miss the race. 1960 Daytona Modified Race Big One. In 1960, it wasn't the Daytona 500, but a modified sportsman car race. The race started with 73 cars, which is unprecedented in today's racing. The majority of the field did not complete the first lap due to a pileup in turn 3. The vehicles collided on the track and in the infield. They didn't slow down despite the fact that a NASCAR record 37 cars were involved in the crash. I'm not sure how many cars were involved, but several were flipped over. In this day and age, you'd think at least 1 or 2 drivers were hurt, right? But that didn't happen. Everyone involved in the accident was unharmed. A few people had cuts and bruises, but that was about it. Given the severity of the crash, this is nothing short of miraculous. There was a fire risk due to fuel tanks, but there were no fires. Perhaps they had some good fortune on their side, but that's never a bad thing. NASCAR is a dangerous sport, but they've made such strides in safety that there aren't many injuries anymore. Terrible crashes will occur from time to time. All we can hope for is that the driver gets away safely. So this was all in today's video. Please let us know your response in the comment section, and do like and subscribe to this channel.